Hello again, Percy again, 'cause it's not like I'm ever gonna change. But today is October 11th. Marks my 3 month on testosterone, so I've been on T for 3 months. Voice comparison happening right now. Hopefully I sound different. Changes. I found my first chin hair. You probably can't see it, but it's right there. So yeah, I found my first chin hair. That was really exciting. I've been showing everybody and they're all making fun of me. But besides today being my 3 months on testosterone, it is also National Coming Out Day. So I'm going to tell you the story of how I came out to my parents. So I was a senior in high school, and I had been playing with gender a little bit. At that point in time, I considered myself gender fluid. And I didn't really know. I thought that I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't know that if it was real or not until I applied for college and they had a rainbow housing community option. And I thought, that sounds a lot safer than being in a dorm full of a bunch of straight girls. So I asked my parents if I could apply to rainbow housing. And they were like, why would you do that? Like, you're straight and cis. Like, there's no point. And so I kind of said, I'm kind of gay. And they were like, oh yeah, that's okay. But I didn't really explain to them what that meant at the time because I was too afraid to talk about gender because they're old. My dad is 60. So sexuality was easier for me to talk to them about than the gender was because I know that they are pro LGBT, and so I knew that wouldn't be a problem. But as the week progressed, I realized that it wasn't just that I was a little gay, and I had to explain to them what that actually meant. So I spent a lot of time at school in the office of my director for theater. She was one of my closest friends, as lame as that sounds, but she was always there for me. She was like a second mother to me that I couldn't tell my actual mother like things. So I spent an entire class period writing out a letter explaining that I was gender fluid and what that meant. And at that time, I was dabbling with the name Adam, which I don't know why I ever did that, 'cause clearly I don't look like an Adam. But, so I signed it, my birth name, otherwise known as Adam, and I gave it to my director, and she read it over, and she said, this is great, except I feel like writing a letter to them is hedging your bets. I don't think that's a good idea. But I'm too anxious to talk to people in person about important stuff, especially this, because I get very emotional. Not even because it's emotional, just because with anxiety and everything, it's just the act of talking to somebody about something that can possibly make me vulnerable like that. It makes me emotional. So I knew I couldn't say it, so I wrote the letter. I went home that day, and I put it on my mom's pillow. And by the end of the night, she called me over, and she said, hey, I got your letter. Like, I just want you to know that it's okay. Like, we accept that. And so I went off to college. I didn't get accepted into rainbow housing, so I had to live with a bunch of straight girls anyways. It wasn't that bad, but I couldn't really be myself around them. So I got to college, and when I got to college, I was using strictly he, him pronouns because I tried to wear feminine clothes once or twice when I was in college, but because my gender fluidity would span between months, so I would go a few months feminine, a few months masculine. But when I had graduated, I was very masculine, and when I got into college, I was very masculine presenting. So getting into college, I became friends with the people in the rainbow community, and they initially thought that I was a gay boy, like, before I even, like, said anything to them. And so, like, I remember this vividly. One day I wore a shirt that had cleavage, and somebody looked at me and they said, "Percy, you have boobs?" And I was like, "Oh, of course I do." Like, haha, very funny. And they said, "No, I'm asking because I seriously thought that you were a gay boy." And then it kind of clicked. Hearing that sentence was a wash of relief. Like, I don't know why, but that was the moment I was like, fuck this gender fluid shit. I'm a fucking boy, you know? And so then I started dressing, presenting, using the pronouns, but then like when I got home, my parents still thought that I was gender fluid and they weren't using the right pronouns. So it eventually got to the point where I pretty much just broke and started screaming and stuff like you guys say that you're supportive, but you never use he, him pronouns, like all this stuff. My mom kind of looked at me and was like, you never told us that that's what you wanted. Like, we'll do that. And so pretty much that was the point. It was in the parking lot of the doctor's office, actually, when that happened. That was pretty much the point when I was like, yeah, I'm trans. We have to do something about this. And then I started talking about hormones, and they were like kind of scared, like, I don't think we should do that. And I was like, listen, if you're really supporting me, then you have to let me do this. And but yeah, it could have been worse, honestly. It was so much, like, the way I say it, it sounds like everything went smoothly, but there were lots of arguments over the things that I should do and who I am. So it was kind of frustrating not being validated or believed immediately, which I know, like, people have it way worse where they're just completely rejected, but yeah. Anyways, so I mean, after that had happened, my parents still would call me most of the time by my name, like my birth name, and it got to a point where I had to break down again and let them know visually that is not okay, because they don't understand it if you just say it to them, but they saw me in pain and realized that they shouldn't be doing that. And even still, like, my dad, he uses Percy about 95% of the time, but he only uses he, him pronouns about 50% of the time. So it's like, I've been trans for about a year now, out publicly, but I don't know. I don't know, I'm sorry, that was a lame story, lame ending, but that's the story of how I came out to my parents, and practically to myself and the world, and now I'm a strong gay boy with blue hair and one chin hair. But yeah, that's it, I guess.